everyone. I am Priya Rao, and we are inside the green room today with Hanna Rakowska, way over on the other coast of Canada. Hanna, welcome to the green room.
Thank you so much for having me, Priya. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I'm so excited to talk to you and talk about health and nutrition, specifically related to the big C word that all of us try to avoid. We don't want to think about it, we don't want to talk about it, but so many of us are going to be struck by it in our lifetimes or have somebody we love have have this terrible thing called cancer. So
Hmm.
nobody wants to talk about it, but you have a very, very one-on-one relationship with cancer because you yourself are a cancer survivor. So I want to first talk about your journey with the big C, and then we'll pivot to how it impacted your life so much that it's now become what your career is all about.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2006. I was 19 years old at the time and going through treatment and discovering nutritional therapy and complementary medicine throughout my journey with cancer is what pivoted my career from one in dental hygiene to one ultimately in oncology nutrition. So I went through chemotherapy, I went through radiation, I had surgery. I did, all the medical treatments possible, but I also had the blessing of traveling to Lima, Peru, where I underwent complementary therapy at a medical oncology clinic. And oncologists there work with herbal medicine as well as chemotherapy, and they recommended specific Amazonian herbs to complement my treatment, as well as a plant-based diet. And I went back to Vancouver, and my tumor had already reduced by, 50%.
Wow.
Yeah, before I ever started chemotherapy, I got to, well, I maybe that's not the right wording, but initially I was supposed to get 8 cycles of chemotherapy. I ended up getting 2 cycles because I didn't need as much treatment. And I just went through chemo and radiation much differently. It was a very visible, obvious difference than the people that,
My
I
dog is
was.
screaming. I hope you can't hear that. She's
No
chased a
worries.
rabbit, so listen.
It's
Continue,
background
sorry.
music.
Actually, before you continue, I do want to just clarify the term complementary therapy. So, what exactly does that mean?
Complementary therapy is basically adjunctive therapies to medical treatments. Medical treatments include chemotherapy, radiation therapy, surgery, as well as immunotherapy
Mhm.
or targeted therapies. And complementary therapies complement the conventional medical treatments. So they are not used as, I never recommend just doing, an alternative cancer treatment route. I always recommend hitting cancer from every angle possible, which includes medical treatments as well as um, complementary treatments like herbal medicine, nutrition, and, for example, acupuncture, as an example.
Okay. So, that
Yeah,
was when you were 19 years old. So, you've now been cancer free for how many years?
17 years.
Amazing. First of all,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so I basically went through treatment in a much different way than people around me were going through treatment. Like I had energy, I felt great, I didn't lose very much hair. My blood levels were stable. My oncologist was in complete shock all the time. He's like, just whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. Just don't tell me too much about it. Um, so I went through that, and I became a dental hygienist, and I found myself talking to my dental patients all about like nutrition all the time, and especially those who were impacted by cancer, who had someone in their family or friends who were. And
Mhm.
all I wanted to do was talk about, okay, this is this is what I did, this is what might help. And then finally, my husband at the time said, you should go back to school, you should do nutrition and work with cancer patients and help other people. And so I did that at the age of 28. And I went back to school and I got a diploma in natural nutrition. And I always knew I wanted to specialize in this, of course. And now I work with cancer patients at every phase of treatment to help them get through it in a smoother manner.
And that's really the angle of your bio that was of extra interest to me, which is that, well, first of all, you yourself, you've experienced cancer, so you know what it's like to go through the treatments, to go through to go through the diagnosis and the healing before, during, and after, but also that you approach cancer treatment. And I like what you said. I like you that you said you tackle it from all angles. So you've got a degree in health sciences. So you approach it from a very scientific perspective, but you also come at it from the holistic route based on your experiences in, was it Peru, you said?
Yeah, Peru and just, people that I met on my journey, even in Vancouver,
Mm-hmm.
who helped me, adopt some holistic modalities that I had never known about before, like, like castor oil packs, for example, or integrative energy healing. I was introduced to so many modalities through various people that came into my life at the exact, right time. So
Why do you think that there is such a stigma still around alternative approaches to combating? I don't want to say alternative therapies because, like you're saying, you're not suggesting to anybody that they issue medical treatment. What you're saying is that they complement medical treatment with what sounds like real common sense. Treat your body, feed your body good whole foods, stay away from the foods that are scientifically proven to be carcinogenic, embrace the foods which are known to be cancer fighting. But
mhm.
there seems to be such resistance to the idea of some, herbal approaches, or just even to the idea that diet can make a difference. So let's get into that a little bit.
Wow, this is a very loaded question. I love it though. Um, I think the idea of complementary medicine in terms of cancer treatment, and the fact that oncologists don't talk about it or don't offer it as an option,
And
like to
yours didn't either, right?
my oncologist did not. He was open to whatever I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned down the road later on after my treatment that yes, he was very open to alternative treatments in conjunction with chemo. But most oncologists who are not naturopathic oncologists are not open to it. And that's simply, I believe it's simply because they're trained in medicine. They're trained in pharmaceutical
Right.
modalities or radiotherapy. And so they're just not, when I talk to my friends who are oncologists, for example, or physicians, they get about, 30 minutes sometimes of nutrition training
Mm-hmm.
in medical school.
Which
So
is shocking.
yeah, it's shocking and it's scary because we know the statistics are so strong for in terms of how much diet affects cancer development and, suppression of cancer cell growth.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like herbal medicine, I mean, I can't even imagine that even being a part of a training program for medical doctors where, they're so it's their toolkit is pharmaceutical based.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's obviously the reason why in my experience, but also we just don't have the studies. We don't have strong evidence for herbal medicine
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that being like a treatment for cancer or anything else. We don't have those studies because they're not ethical. We can't just subject cancer patients to, one group, you do chemo and the other group, will give you herbal medicine or even like dietary interventions. We only have studies that combine both. um so I think that's and yeah, I think there's a stigma there, and it's unfortunate because cancer is such a multifaceted disease, and we know that the tumor is just one manifestation of cancer. Like when you have cancer, when you have a tumor, that's an indication that your body is out of balance. There are multiple systemic imbalances going on that result in a tumor, in the tumor growth. And so how I approach it is let's target, oxidation, inflammation, blood flow, immune function, gut microbiome. Let's target all of these different systems that are likely out of balance. And we can figure that out with simple like symptomatic questionnaires or even blood work.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just target this disease process in every aspect because it is multifaceted and we can't just, for lack of a better word, bombard the tumor bulk. That doesn't heal you. That just takes out the tumor bulk.
Okay.
But the root issue as to why that actually occurred is completely, that it's complex. And so that's why holistic healing is what really just drives me, because I know I've seen it with my clients and my friends and family members and myself. Only chemo, only radiation, only surgery debulking the tumor does not yield healing. That is not complete treatment.
Sure. You know, it's interesting. Like this has nothing to do with cancer, but it has to do with what you're saying about one. It's not just one thing. Like I've, for the first time in my life, started to work with a personal trainer because I have had hip bursitis for about 10 years,
Mhm.
and now recently I've developed plantar fasciitis, and I have other things going on. I just thought these were all sort of disparate things that just happen with age. Stupid age. But this trainer that I'm working with just happens to also be going for his master's in physiotherapy. Sorry, this is such a tangent. But when
No,
he
it's
did
great.
my assessment, he said that, well, your hip bursitis is likely causing the plantar fasciitis because of the ways that you're compensating for
Exactly.
imbalances in your body and the other things that were happening in my body, the way that I'm always hunched over from my phone or my computer, and what that's
Mhm.
doing to my alignment, leading to like all the way down my body, creating other problems that I would never have thought were connected. But it's your body, it is an ecosystem of its own. Everything is interconnected. So I just,
Exactly.
when you were talking about cancer and the different ways to approach it, and gut, what's going on in your gut and the blood and oxidization, it's really interesting to me. Like it sounds like just parts of an ecosystem that need to be rebalanced and work together. That's how your body works, right?
Exactly. We can't I can never say this word, compartmentalize our body. I can never say that's the one word I really can't say. Everything is connected. And so when I work with my clients, yeah, I do. I say, listen, like your body has an innate healing ability. And we have different defense systems. Like Dr. William Lee has a book called Eat to Beat Disease, and he talks about these 5 defense systems. And they include like stem cell regeneration and an immune system and DNA repair and our gut microbiome. And these systems are all in place because our body wants to be at a certain equilibrium. Like we have these systems in place, but we have to support them through diet, lifestyle, other measures. And so to support those systems, we need to then look at, yeah, like reducing oxidation, reducing inflammation, optimizing immune function, optimizing our gut microbiome, and enhancing proper blood flow. So I look at it that way. I don't look at the tumor itself because I know that the body, like we do have medical, I mean, in the medical literature, spontaneous remission for stage and any advanced stage cancer, or regardless of stage, there are documented cases, thousands of them, because the body does have that innate ability to repair and
Right.
heal,
And it wants to. I mean, your
and it
body
wants
is
to.
meant to constantly repair itself. How many times do you get a cut and you think, oh my God, that is going to scar? And like, oftentimes those scars heal so well that you can't see them unless you're looking for them. Like, your body just, it amazes me to no end how much my body is working for me,
Right? Yeah,
even when I do the worst things to it. When I sit on the couch for 12 hours watching Netflix on a rainy day, or when I, don't drink enough water, which I never do, like it's still trying to be its optimal working order.
that's
But
right.
we have to help it. And
That's
that's
right.
where nutrition comes in.
Yeah, and the example of having a cut and you don't have to do anything. You really don't have to do anything when you have a cut. I mean, depending on how severe, but it's like a typical paper cut. You don't have to do anything, and it heals. So
Yeah.
I look at the body internally. That's all these things are happening all the time. We make as adults about 500 cancer cells per day, and we don't get cancer, right? Not everybody gets cancer,
I
right?
don't think anybody ever knew. I never knew that. I've never
Yeah,
known that my body is making cancer cells daily.
we make them all the time. There are defective cells in our bloodstream all the time, and it's up to these repair mechanisms, these natural defense mechanisms, to eliminate them through various ways. Even like when you're filling up your car, your gas in your car, and you're breathing in petroleum fumes. If we didn't have these repair mechanisms in place, we would be getting cancer left, right, and center. Like,
Okay, this is a bit of
right?
an
So
aha moment for me.
right, it was an aha moment for me too when I heard it was Dr. William Lee that talked about that. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly it. But we have to support our system daily, every single day, to make sure that it's functioning optimally.
Okay, well,
So
let's get
mhm.
to it. Like, how
Mhm.
do we do that, and what are the best foods? Let's talk about two things. What are the best foods to help your body, and what are the worst foods that you should try to reduce, if not eliminate altogether?
In terms of cancer, or in terms of any, actually, in terms of any chronic disease, because the diet that's been proven to be the most effective for reducing your risk of cancer is a whole food plant-based diet. And it's the
Can you
same
say that
exact diet.
again? Let's
Hmm.
say that again because
Yeah.
this is scientifically proven. So
Hmm.
let's just repeat that.
Let's do that. The dietary pattern that has been shown to reduce the risk of several different types of cancer is a whole food plant-based dietary pattern. So you might hear of a Mediterranean diet being the best diet for reducing your cancer risk, and that's accurate because the Mediterranean diet is centered around whole plant foods. But when we look at the data, I mean, we've known this since 1980 or even before, when several physicians and then researchers at Harvard did studies, and they ran the numbers and they reran the numbers, and we know that a plant-based diet is linked with reduced risk of several cancers. We also know that dietary factors are linked with 30 to 35% of all cancers, and people who eat a mostly plant-based diet, populations who eat mostly plant-based, have reduced rates of cancer. So a whole food plant-based diet is the key. but
Yes.
then there are several but then there are several specific foods that have also been shown to be scientifically proven to actually fight cancer cell growth.
And also emphasis on the whole foods plant-based, because I think, we're not just saying you can be a junk food vegan and
No.
you're combating cancer as much as somebody on a whole foods plant-based, because that is a term that's become so much more common lately. We hear that term a lot more. At least I have heard that term a lot more in sort of the layperson's world of whole foods plant-based. And maybe we're hearing it more because of the rise of things like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, because they're so handy. Let me tell you, it is so relieving to be able to drive on a road trip and stop at a pit stop and be able to have something to eat that is not just French fries. So they certainly have their place and their moment in time, but at the same time, a lot of people use those as a bit of a crutch. Oh, what am I going to do for dinner tonight? I'll just have a Beyond sausage and then have some veggies on the side. I know I've been guilty for that. So let's just talk about that.
Amazing point, Priya. And while I am all for, transition foods and healthy, or sorry, treat foods like Beyond Meat, for example, burgers or sausages, I'm all for that. And in terms of someone that is eating a vegan diet, um, those are ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
And ultra processed foods have been linked to an increased risk of cancer as well. So they include various, preservatives, various additives, various, chemicals that are not conducive to health, and isolated nutrients like soy, for example. A lot of these vegan processed, foods have isolated soy. And that, yeah, they are not what I consider at all to be health foods. The only caveat I will say is this: if you're going to have a ground beef burger, or if you're going to even organic grass fed, or if you're going to have a Beyond Meat burger, the Beyond Meat burger is still going to be better for you in terms of cancer risk, because the carcinogens that are formed when you cook red meat are not present in the Beyond Meat burger patty.
Got it.
So like, it's already a check mark. And then, that's, and then studies have shown that Beyond Meat burgers are actually healthier, quote unquote, than organic grass fed meat, in
We're
terms of
still not saying
cholesterol.
they're healthy. We're
No,
just saying that they're
healthier.
healthier.
They don't lead to the adverse health outcomes that grass fed red meat does.
Okay.
So, in terms of the studies that we have right now at
Right.
Stanford. And so, yes, ultra processed foods, I don't ever recommend them. As a transition food, I do. Or if someone's going through chemo and they're not able to, maybe they're just not able to, they don't want to eat beans for dinner. They're just not, their appetite is completely gone. And the only thing they actually can tolerate is maybe, a ground, veggie ground round, for example, or some sort of like fake meat alternative. Then of course I'll say, yeah, let's do that. Like, I want you to eat.
Nothing. Right.
Exactly. I want you to sustain yourself. I want you to be able to get through treatment and get your calorie density up. So yes, various, it depends, but overall whole food plant-based.
So I remember hearing once on a TV show way, way back in the 80s that stay away from from foods where you look at the ingredients and there's a bunch of ingredients that your grandma wouldn't recognize. Well, that we don't even recognize. Things with multiple syllables that don't sound like a food or a fruit at all. So try to stay away from things that are too heavy on that. But so processed, not so good. Occasionally, not bad. Let's move to the good side. What are all the good things you can eat? And some of the top cancer fighting foods, because I know from the recipes on your website that there are a lot of fruits and vegetables, specifically green leafy vegetables that show up over and over again. So what are
Mhm.
your top cancer fighting foods?
Yeah, so my top cancer fighting foods, I'll tell you right now. I read a book in 2006 when I was going through cancer called Foods That Fight Cancer by Dr. Richard Beliveau. He's Canadian, Montreal-based researcher, and I got like that's when I was first exposed to these scientifically proven cancer fighting foods, and they've remained pretty much the same all these years because I do research I'm all the time, or I read through research all the time, and these are basically the two top families of vegetables that are cancer killing are the cruciferous vegetables or the cabbage family vegetables, which include, broccoli, bok choy, arugula, Swiss chard, kale, Brussels sprouts, radishes, mustard seed, cauliflower. I mean, there are so many foods in this category that if you don't like one, hopefully you
Find
can find one
another.
that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or throw it into a smoothie and you don't even know it's there.
Which I
Which is
think
my
you have a smoothie to show to
I
us.
do. This is my ultimate cancer fighting smoothie. This recipe is on my website, and it's a variation of it. I don't always have all the ingredients, and I know that we all do our best in terms of what we have in our kitchen. But yeah, I actually have broccoli in here, and you would probably not guess that,
Never
like a
thought
whole
of that.
broccoli, like a
Wow.
few crowns. Um, so that's the number one family I recommend of vegetables that are beneficial
Okay.
because they contain isothiocyanates, and isothiocyanates are potent cancer fighting compounds.
Hmm.
The vegetable that I will just highlight a little bit is actually the broccoli and broccoli sprouts because they contain a specific isothiocyanate called sulforaphane, and so sulforaphane is it's actually a word that we hear about often even on social media. I'll see it quite a lot, and sulforaphane has actually been shown to target stem cells of breast cancer cells,
Okay.
which oftentimes chemotherapy doesn't even do.
Wow.
So yeah, sulforaphane is like it's probably like the rock star of all the cancer fighting phytochemicals. And it's found in highest concentration in broccoli sprouts, the broccoli stem, not the florets,
Right.
and then the florets.
Which I think a lot of people throw out the stem in some ways, and I try to always use those in my stir fries. So I'm okay. I'm glad. Like I love broccoli. I eat it all the time, but I'm gonna try to eat more and more of the stem for sure. What's the second family?
Garlic and onion family. The
Oh,
garlic
I
and
love
the
that.
alliums. They are actually garlic had actually been found to be the most potent cancer killing vegetable when scientists dripped various vegetable and fruit juices over cancer cells.
Hmm.
They juiced 36 different vegetables and fruit, and garlic was the most powerful
Wow.
against multiple cancer cell lines. So with garlic, the one thing I do tell my clients to remember is that if you chop it up and then heat it right away, you're not going to get the cancer fighting chemicals that are supposed to be formed,
Okay.
which is allicin. With garlic, I just want people to remember that it's you have to crush it, mince it.
Hmm.
Certain compounds have to combine. Wait 10 minutes and then cook with it if you're going to use it in a stir fry, or else you can eat it raw and then you don't have to worry about anything. But you have to really just chew it really, really, really well to get those compounds to form.
That is something I'm gonna definitely incorporate because I did not know that. So definitely
Yes.
crush it or mince it is better than chopping it finely.
Or crush it and then just yeah, mince it or chop it finely, but just let it sit there for 10 to 15 minutes
15
and
minutes.
let those compounds form before you cook it. If you're gonna have it raw though, it's like in a salad, like say you grate it over a salad, for example, which I do sometimes, then you don't have to worry about that at all. Yeah,
Wow.
that's
Okay, as we wrap up, we're going to just touch upon one of my favorite topics, which is wine. Now, we've all heard the recent studies that say that there is no safe amount of alcohol and that it is a carcinogen. And I myself have reduced the amount of any alcoholic beverages I drink. But what's your recommendation to your clients and patients?
For my clients, people who are going through chemotherapy, I always recommend no alcohol intake because it does interfere with chemotherapeutic agents, and nobody really feels like drinking during chemo or radiation.
Yeah.
But in terms of cancer prevention, we know, yeah, there's no safe limit of intake. I do say it's if you're going to have alcohol, um, definitely, I say once a week, 1 to 2 beverages maximum. But even that can be it's arguable that that's even a safe limit. It's because World Health Organization says no safe limit. So I just say it's a treat. It's a treat beverage, and if you're going to treat it as a social thing, and maybe it reduces, it brings you some sort of joy in the moment. As long as you're aware of how much you're having, um, I, that's my recommendation because I feel like people are going to have social events. You're going to go to weddings and gatherings and things, and sometimes it's a part of that.
And we do
Um,
the best we can do, right? And sometimes you just feel like a treat. And sometimes you feel like a treat because you know it's not the best thing for you. Because you're just like,
exactly.
I've had a day and I just want to have a burger, fries, and a beer. And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's
That's
okay.
fine.
And I feel like we should be able to do that. And then it's what we do the majority of the time that counts, right? So if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet the majority of the time and avoiding ultra processed foods, processed meats, red meat, alcohol, the carcinogens that are found in food, then I feel like you're doing a great job to try to optimize your health and prevent cancer or prevent cancer recurrence.
Hannah, this has been so informative. Thank you so much for taking the time.
You're
And we're going to put
welcome.
all your information right at the end of this video. Thank you so much, Hannah. And cancer free for another 17 years.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much for having me on.